allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we are short a member tonight. Paul is out with COVID, so he's going to try and log in here remotely once we can get everything going. Hopefully he can hear and participate in the discussion, but he doesn't count for quorum and won't be voting since he's not here in person. Going on to activity reports, I have a few things. We had our police and fire meeting last night, discussed the enforcement of some ongoing nuisance properties. One of the things that we discussed there is historically there's been a little bit of pushback from the council, not the current group, but in the past, about how nuisance properties are enforced and just making sure that when the chief uses his discretion in writing citations that he's got the backing of the council. So the board reiterated to him that if he's issuing a citation, we are here to support and back. So I'm just going to say that publicly as well. We talked about what does it mean to use that discretion, and that'll all be in the minutes, I think, once they come out. Otherwise, we had our Stearns County Municipal Association meeting on Monday. That was good. Heard from the entities that were there. Nothing new and terribly exciting. They have a new treasurer and a new secretary, both of whom are sitting next to me. We had, Tarek and I met with the hospital group, Brandon Peach, along with Dave. Yep. Dave from the hospital talked about their plans for Stearns Place, a little bit of discussion of Washburn Court, along with the expansion project that they are doing. One of the things from that is they're going to want to come to us for some type of resolution or document at some point in the near future, just confirming that the things that they are doing satisfy the affiliation agreement that was in place. And then we met with, again, Tarek and I met with a developer. Chuck and Ron were also there to talk about the land over by the ambulance garage and possibly getting some housing development on that. Unfortunately, with the cost of building materials, it seems that's going to be hard to accomplish, but there's at least an interest in making it work. Then we also discussed some other ways of doing some projects around town to get some people moving in and some new houses built. I don't think I've got anything else, so I'll turn it over to you, Neil.
Yeah, we were quite busy. On Wednesday 11th, we had policy and procedures.
Thank you.
I
Yep.
think you missed that one.
I did miss that one. Yep.
And a couple of the topics, I believe, are on tonight's agenda. The 18th, we had public works. Ron might highlight that. A lot of discussion on our chloride situation and possible solutions. Then Monday the 23rd, we had a very nice Stearns County Municipal League at Freeport, and was well attended by Painesville Council, and happy to have the secretary and treasurer represented.
They look happy too.
The treasurer is thrilled.
Yeah, we were railroaded, weren't we, Tarek?
Yeah, I don't think it was voluntary.
I don't think so either.
They were sort of voluntold into the position. Megan?
I participated in, excuse me, a Minneapolis Federal Reserve Zoom presentation about the status of inflation and energy costs. We had an EDAP meeting. We didn't vote on anything. We didn't have the quorum, but we discussed the agenda items for next time. I submitted a letter of interest for the Blandon Rural Leadership Boost Grant to be used for the Ampey Park Shelter. We were supposed to hear by the 20th, but apparently there were a lot of submissions, so we're going to hear this week whether or not we've made it through to the next round. And then we can submit a formal proposal. And then I was at the Stearns County Municipal League meeting as well.
Jean?
Obviously, I was at Stearns County Municipal League meeting, and that's about it, because I was gone last week.
That's right, you were
I
gone.
missed 3 meetings.
The other one I missed is I was able to join Ron and the class, the 5th graders out at the Water Festival, so that was a great pleasure. Was out there for about an hour touring around with them, spent a little bit of time over at Ministries looking at what they have going on. Wasn't able to stay all day, but it was nice getting a taste of what that festival entails, so.
I think Paul is here. Paul, are you with us now?
Can you hear me, Tarek?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, sounds good.
You want to give your update, if you have an update for council?
I have nothing to report.
You feeling okay?
Tired.
Okay. All right, going on then to our department head reports. Ron?
Okay, thank you. First at the water plant, we have started the filter rehab down there. They ran into a few issues, so it may extend a little bit longer than what we had initially anticipated. So, in your packet under the informational, we do have the wellhead protection grant. We were awarded that, and that again is for a transfer switch on well number 8 for a standby power unit. I'd like to remind residents, please start mowing your grass if you have not done so. We did make several contacts today, so if anybody sees anybody that does need them, please contact me and I will follow up on it. I'd also like to remind residents of the sump pump ordinance. Sump pump ordinance does state that you do need to discharge that water to the outside of the home, either on the grass or out to the street. Summer banners were put up today, you've seen downtown. Parks are all open, splash pad is on today. If anybody wants to brave the water temperature. Compost site, during the storm it was used very extensively. I'd like to remind residents again, there is a donation box out there it goes to a very good purpose out there. The railroad crossing down on Washburn Avenue and CP Rail, I was in contact with them on the condition of that crossing, and it is going to be rehabbed very likely sometime in June. It will need to be, the crossing will be blocked for very likely 4 days. So the traffic will need to detour around it. As soon as we know those dates, we will let everybody know. As Neil had mentioned at the Public Works meeting, we did have a representative in from a brine recirculation committee, or not committee, but a company, and it looks very promising. We did also have several businesses there, and we will be following up on it, and hopefully this will be something that the city can promote and, sponsor. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ron? Okay, Tarek?
All right, a lot of meetings, or board meetings, policies and procedures. We had the planning board, EDAP, we did not have a quorum. Liquor board, public works, which Ron mentioned, where we had a speaker come in and talk about the brine solution. And then the Stearns County Municipal League, which, as Sean mentioned, treasurer is here and the secretary is here. Police and fire board was last night. And we had a discussion again on as Sean mentioned, with the housing developer on trying to see what we can do about housing solutions here. And also with Megan, we participated in the Federal Reserve of Minneapolis meeting on inflation and the economy here.
Great. Any questions for Tarek? Going back, you said you had the planning board, just before I forget about it. If anybody has any, knows anyone who might be interested in filling the upcoming vacancy on the board, please let me know so that we can make an appointment. I'll also be trying to reach out to some people, but if anybody here knows anyone who wants to serve, let me know and we'll reach out and take care of it. Anyone here for the open forum? Okay. Going on then to the adoption of our consent agenda, which includes the voluminous minutes listed on page 1, the vouchers on page 2 totaling $390,725.29, along with the planning board member resignation there on page 1 of our update. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. I do want to thank Bill for his years of leadership and hard work, and I'd rather not approve his resignation, but if that's what he wants, I think we're obligated to approve it, so I'll make the motion to accept.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Soini. I share in your thanks and gratitude to Bill. I did send him a letter after he resigned thanking him for his service, so hopefully he also gets it from this evening. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? None? That carries. Right, Andy's here with the fire department. He asked that we move his stuff to the end, so we'll do that. Now, we'll start with the officer wage increase, take new business item C. This was something that we asked to be, that I asked Art and Jennifer to put on the agenda from our last meeting. When we talked about the part-time salaries, it seemed only fair and reasonable that we bring this back for consideration as well. Andy, I don't know if you want to explain it a little bit since you're here, or if it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. I guess the only thing, I don't even know when the last time the officers have had a pay increase. We couldn't find any records of when that was. I don't know, I'm guessing minimum 10 years, but that's just a true guess. So I just presented the numbers where I thought the numbers would be fair, and that's the numbers that we came up with at that point. And yeah, so any questions or thoughts? Or
Well, I just want to add that if you add up all the increase that he's asking for, the total amount for all the officers will be $3,348 per year.
That's an increase of that amount.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
This gives incentive for people on the force to go up into leadership.
Right. Actually, it's more of a, the incentive is definitely part of it, but it's more of an appreciation for everything that I
Because it takes
requested them to
time and
do.
effort to do the job.
It's an additional meeting every month at the fire hall that we deal with, and then it's the leadership and the responsibility that they have when they're on scene, things like that, so.
When's the last time we upped the pay for the firefighters?
I believe that was 3 years ago,
Yep.
right around that ballpark.
I agree. In the paragraph below is something we should probably look at every 3 years like we do our contracts. And in light of that, the recommendation going into this was to wait until January. We're in year one of our contract, correct? With our unions?
Yeah.
So I propose doing like a year one and make this a 3-year thing, which would basically be $333 for fire chief, 85 for assistant, 333 for training officer, 66 for captain, 66 for finance officer, 66 for lieutenants, and 150 for the secretary per year for 3 years. And then after that, we're right on track with our 3-year like we are with our union. And if somebody will second that, I'll make a motion to do a 3-year plan, starting back to January 1st of this year.
So as I understand the motion would be to increase the salaries effective January 1, 2022, but to break apart the increase into annual installments over 3 years.
Correct.
So like the fire chief going from 15 to 25, instead of going up 1,000 right now, it would be 333.34, 333.34.
I think that makes sense on our budget, and I think it makes sense to be in relation to our contract with the unions.
That makes sense.
To address the budget, I have zero control over salaries with the budget. I don't get to pick and choose who works when and where, or how many people show up. So that is the one item that I have zero control over. So if you think that the $3,000 is gonna make a big difference, it may or may not, but that honestly has.
It's not so much about the money, it's about fairness.
Sure.
What we did with our employees on a 3-year.
Well, fairness, then we should probably prorate it back about 5 or 6 years,
What,
and then we'd be a lot higher.
hold on, so,
I didn't understand what the 333 was, if we're talking 1,500.
no, so the motion, I have a motion by Hertzberg to increase the salaries from their current amount to the amount proposed on the action sheet over 3 years, starting January 1, 2022, with the amount of the increase equally divided over those 3 years.
Yes.
Do I have a second to that motion before we discuss? Okay, I'm gonna call it, that one dies for lack of a second. I'm with Neil that I think this should be reviewed to make it fair. I would be in support of increasing the officer pay immediately, but then setting a review date for the 2025 year. Or maybe that takes effect in 2026 to be 3-year cycle. But just something where we are gonna look at that.
But backdate the raise to January 1st this year, or no, or as of now?
I would leave that to wherever the motion fell. But I contemplated it in my head that it would not be retroactive.
Okay.
Yeah, because the ones we raised for the public works and liquor store, it was just effective now.
Yeah, that's true.
We didn't go back, so. I think in all fairness, it should be just now. I kind of like the idea that, yeah, in 3 years, then look at it again, so it doesn't get to be 10 or 15 years and without the
Yeah.
increase. So I'll make the motion that we give them these increases effective immediately or at the next pay time, however that works, easiest for payroll.
So we have a motion by Soini to increase the officer salaries to the amounts indicated on the action sheet, effective with the next payroll process.
And then review in 3 years?
And review in 3 years, yeah.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brick. I will just add to, I agree with Neil that I think we need to review this. I would support it if we hadn't gone so long without increasing it before. But given it's been 10 years, and Andy, I don't know how many hours you put in, but I know Shane puts in probably 5 hours a week minimum on training officer for $500 a year. I think we just have to get it caught up. And it's, at the end of the year, a minimal, it's not minimal, it's still taxpayer dollars, but it's not a huge chunk of money. Any further discussion on that?
Can I just get clarification?
Yes.
So I just want to confirm that the last sentence under the comments is when you want the pay to start. Effective April 1st, 2022, as the second quarter payroll is paid out in July. So when they turn in their second quarter, we pay them out in July, this would be in effect.
Yep.
I understood the motion that when the next payroll goes out, this will be in effect.
That would be the easiest for
I just wanted to make sure.
clarification with everybody and everything.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on that? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay. Vote does carry 3-1. Right, then going to Andy, your garage doors, old business B. Said, find it on my sheet.
All right, garage doors, last meeting you had, I had Mike Stern here, and he did not catch this when we were going through everything, and I did not catch it in the minutes when I read it, but basically what happened is we had 2 quotes that were listed. We had an updated quote from Bierman Garage Door, and we ended up getting both of those numbers listed at the same time, and I didn't notice how the motion was written. I didn't even read it, actually. I just saw the first quote, thought it was close enough, or everything was right. My mistake. So what we're doing is we're asking to rescind last council's motion, and we have the accurate numbers listed in the new motion now. Yeah, so I guess first off is to rescind the first.
Do I have to rescind it, because didn't I make the motion?
Well, I was just thinking, do we even need a motion to rescind, or can we just do a motion to increase the budgeted amount?
Either one?
We can do this in just one motion and be done.
No?
It's less writing for Jen. I'm worried about your carpal tunnel.
So the increase would be what, $400?
$476.
$476.
So we'd be looking to increase the budget on the project from $16,458 to $16,934 with the $400 credit.
So it's really
Yeah, the
$60.
$400 credit has not changed.
So is it really just increasing from 16,458 to 16,534? So it's less than $100 difference.
Correct.
We wouldn't have really had to even change it.
No, I mean, I guess you do, but
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah. Was it 160?
All right, do I have a motion to increase the budget for the garage doors from the $16,458 to a net total of $16,534?
So moved.
I have a motion by Soini. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Brick. Any further discussion on that? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. That carries. Thanks, Andy.
Just to give everybody a quick update, we do have, the insurance company has been at the fire hall. I have to get quotes to everybody to get the ceiling repaired and adjusted, just so you kind of know where we're at with that.
Thank you.
And our truck that's down in Hyman is not back yet, so we don't have a date for that quite yet. So we're getting anxious. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, going on then, back up to new business. Item A, the lot split for the Myers. They're wishing to split their property as they're no longer going to be building on it. And the neighbors would like some extra space. So right now, we're just looking for a motion to set the public hearing. We have a proposed date of June 27 at 6:30 PM.
I'll make the motion to set the Meyer lot split public hearing for June 27, 2022 at 6:30.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Hertzberg, second by Soini to set the Meyer lot split public hearing for June 27, 2020 at 6:30. Any further discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. Parade permit on page 8. Seniors would like to use the Lake Avenue property and then drive around town with the parade. Seems like a great idea to me.
They did this last year, I believe.
Year before?
Mm-hmm.
New year, we had graduation. That's the first one. I'll make the motion to approve Painesville Area High School's parade permit and allow them to use 605 Lake Avenue for staging.
I'll second.
Right, I have a motion by Soini, seconded by Brick, to approve the school's parade permit and allow them use of the Lake Avenue property for staging. Any further discussion? None, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. Going on then to the EDAP loan satisfaction for the Treble properties or safe basements. They have paid off their EDAP loan, and now we're looking at satisfying their mortgage for them now that they've cleared that up.
Very impressed with the short time period to pay off that kind of money. I don't know if they robbed a bank or made a huge profit, but
Yep.
I'm glad that they're having success. With that, I'll put the motion to approve mortgage satisfactions for Treble Properties LLC.
I have a motion by Hertzberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Soini to approve the mortgage satisfactions for Treble Properties LLC. Any further discussion on that? None. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. That carries. All right, we have two new airport leases starting on page 14. Ron, it says you have a report for Jay Brown and Kurt Newberg.
Okay, we did have a vacancy in hangar number 37, and Curtis Newberg, he was in hangar 7, and he wants to get away from those north-facing hangars, so he would have first option on this unit. And the new pilot then will be Jay Brown, who has a residence, or at least a part-time resident out on Rice Lake, so he was somewhat local.
Well, does this fill everything up again?
We also have a waiting list of, I believe it's 7 pilots right now.
Wow,
Yes,
that's nice to have.
it is.
So we'd be looking at a motion. The terms of the lease are pretty standard as far as I can tell with all of our other ones. So we'd be looking for a motion to approve the T hangar leases for Jay Brown and Curtis Newberg.
I'll make a motion to approve Painesville Municipal T hangar leases for Jay Brown and Curtis Newberg.
Motion by Hertzberg, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Soini. Any discussion? I'll just say they're gonna be glad they got in now. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. Dental insurance on page 33. Tar, do you want to give us an update?
Yeah, we were comparing dental plans. Our insurance agent, obviously, we've been using Delta Dental for a while. He suggested that we go with MetLife because for more coverage, specifically on the, root canal, gum disease, et cetera, they give you higher coverage for lower premium, and they will cap the premium increase no more than 6% in year 2 and year 3. So we thought it was a good deal. Belinda and I called around to some of the, dental practices, and they all seem to accept it. So we thought, well, it's widely accepted, and they agreed that it's probably the second most popular plan out there. So with that in mind, we're recommending that we switch over to this plan, and also keep in mind that the dental plans are fully paid by the employee. The city does not pay for any of it.
And the 7 employees are in favor of this?
We asked if their dentist covers them, and the feedback we got was, yeah, from the dentist that we called. I called 3, and I think Belinda called a few.
But the employees themselves kind of want.
I didn't check with all the employees. Belinda checked with some of them, and I think I just asked one employee.
Because it does look like better coverage for less money, so.
Yeah.
Kind of a no-brainer.
Yep. It's like about a 10% savings.
I'll make the motion to approve changing the city's offered dental plan from Delta Dental to MetLife effective July 1st, 2022, with premiums coming out of June payroll.
I have a motion by Soini as on the action sheet. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Brick to approve changing the offered dental plan from Delta to MetLife effective July 1, with premiums being paid in June. Any further discussion on that? None. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None. Carries. Right. Old business, item A. Back in last year, we had a proposal to revisit our chicken discussion. At the time, a motion was made to table that for a period of 2 years and then send it to policies and procedures for discussion. Policies and procedures did take it up at, I think, not our last meeting, but the one prior. And the recommendation was, with all of the concerns with the avian flu and other issues, that we should deny the request and recommend that this either be not be revisited again, or just flat out denied. And that's why it's back here, and now the policies and procedures has finished their discussion on it. If we have any further discussion, or if there's any motions,
I'll make the motion to deny chickens in the city of Painesville. I've probably had 100 people I've talked to, and of that 100, they don't want chickens in their neighbor's backyard. And so people have anxiety issues because they don't have chickens and can't sleep at night. I hate to recommend anybody leave our city, but to be legal, you would have to go to the township where you can have chickens and can be happy if that's your major concern. So my motion is no chickens in Painesville, period.
We have a motion by Hertzberg to essentially keep the ordinance as is, which prohibits chickens in the city of Painesville. Is there a second? No, Paul, you can't. Unfortunately, because you're appearing remotely, you don't count for purposes of quorum or voting.
Okay.
Okay, then I will take my motion back and make a new motion that we table this till the next meeting when we can have more representation.
Okay, I don't think we need it. I will just, let's just do that. We need a formal motion on it.
Wow. Very disappointing.
Moving on then to old business item C, increasing the length of the mayor's term. It's also on the update on page 2. Talked to Jennifer last week about this along, or maybe it was earlier this week, about some concerns about there's being some confusion of the effective date. I want it to be clear, this would not extend the length of my current term. Still running for re-election, unless somebody talks me out of it beforehand. My wife is trying. And Jennifer, I just had a couple of questions for you. If you could explain, what is the process that we follow for posting proposed ordinance revisions and things like that?
Sure, so typically when either a committee or a board or a council desires to amend an ordinance, it typically goes to policies and procedures first, for the exception of a zoning ordinance in chapter 36 that would go to planning. So policies and procedures would review it, they'd make a recommendation to council. Usually then council says, yes, we're in favor of that ordinance amendment. Something is drafted, that draft is brought back to council. And if they wish to proceed with that draft ordinance, then it is posted the necessary 10 days. And the posting is put on our legal bulletin board, which is the bulletin board in the lobby of the city hall. And it's also posted on our city website. Then it comes back to council for formal action. Public hearings are held for any ordinances that deal with zoning. So the publication for those are the publication announcing the zoning ordinance public hearing. Then all ordinances are published either in full length or a summary of which the council approves following the passage of the ordinance. And then once passage and publication occurs, the ordinance is in effect, unless it states otherwise in the ordinance.
And you said public hearings are for all of our zoning ordinances and things like that. We don't have them generally on other ones. Could we, if we so chose to do so?
Yes, absolutely. We just, typically, it comes before a board, it's coming to council, it comes back to council again, and then it comes back the third time. So typically we haven't, because we feel that the residents have been given adequate notice at least 4 times. But yeah, absolutely you can. You're going to incur that cost of that publication.
So I just asked, I know it was a hubbub on social media over the weekend with the impression that we were trying to sneak this over the residents. Certainly was never my intent to sneak anything by. That's why I wanted to have the conversation here about how we notice things and where that happens. I think if there were an issue, if somebody wanted to hold a public hearing, we'd entertain a motion to do that. Otherwise, we're looking at sort of a consent to clarify the language on the effective date and then come back at our next meeting for final approval for this.
Would the publication come up before our next meeting?
If we were going to do a public hearing, we could get
No,
that.
I meant for the Because it says on here that it would be posted for 10 days.
So it's posted, not published.
Okay.
So if you wish to proceed tonight
Yep.
as is, or with the amendment of January 1st, 23, it would be posted tomorrow for 10 days, and you would not take formal action until your June meeting, because then we can meet the 10-day posting requirement. So it would be considered again on June 13th.
The only thing that would be published is if we did do a public hearing on it, then that would be published in the press.
And if you did a public hearing, then that would be held June 27th at 6:15 or 6:45.
I'm generally abstaining from this discussion as far as decision-making, but those were the concerns that I thought we should at least talk about before doing anything else on it.
From my perspective, I don't think any change in the ordinance is needed. The ordinance can't change the 2-year term that you were elected to. I mean, it's pretty clear. I mean, we're saying that mayors are gonna be elected to 4-year terms, but we can't go back.
We can't
But-
extend it, no.
Yeah, but I mean, if we wanted to, I guess we could say in section 2-32, persons elected to serve as mayor of the city of Painesville shall serve 4-year terms in office, commencing with the mayoral election to occur in whatever the date of the next mayoral election would be. I guess if we wanted to make it, clear in writing that that's when it takes effect, then I'd need to know the date of the next mayoral election and just put it in there, and that would be extremely clear, I guess, but I think you can't change the term of somebody who was already elected to a 2-year term, so I think it's pretty self-explanatory on its face right now, but if you want to add that verbiage, we certainly can.
I think we should proceed just the way we've been planning with posting it now for the 10 days.
Got a motion?
We don't need a motion, just a consensus, I think.
I guess I agree, and we got all the geniuses on Facebook that are trying to conduct city business, including the previous mayor, giving a recommendation. And I guess instead of Facebook, if you really have feelings, you should be here at the meeting. And the chairs all look empty to me, so I'll rest my case. And like I've said before, I don't recommend the council communicating on Facebook with these people that are basically rebel rousers and like to stir the pot, period.
Megan, how do you feel about the 2 or 4 year? I mean, just a consensus.
I agree. I mean, I agree with you. I think we should go on as we've, we discussed the reasoning and we felt that it was a good idea for the reasons we stated. And I think as long as it's clear, and it's also clear that we don't have any say over what the paper does or does not publish. And if they are behind in watching the tape back from the meetings and, reporting on that, we don't have a lot to do with that. And that, of course, any meeting that we have or any discussion we have on something like this is open and people are welcome to watch at any point, so.
And they're welcome to contact any of us
Absolutely.
if they have a question.
And I appreciate the ones who do.
It's all on the city website. Every meeting, council meeting is video. You can watch at 2 o'clock in the morning like I do.
This council, with the technology that we have and some of the things that we've put in place, is probably more accessible to the public than any council in the past has been. So
Yes.
there's my 2 cents. So the consensus is to move forward on June 13th as currently drafted. Right, and we'll move along to old business item D, the zoning ordinance from the public hearing, setting a public hearing, excuse me. We were supposed to do this 2 days ago, and then we all decided to go to the Stearns County meeting instead. So we're looking at a proposed date for the zoning ordinance public hearing of June 13 at 6:30 p.m.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Soini, seconded by Hertzberg, to set the zoning ordinance public hearing for Monday, June 13 at 6:30. Any further discussion on that? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None? That carries. Jennifer,
Can I make a motion on those again?
I did.
Jean, and then Neil second.
Thank you very much.
Then would be willing to send Bill an invitation to that?
Sure.
Thanks. I don't know that he'll want to come, but he was pretty instrumental in setting it up, so just keeping him advised of where it is, if he wants to see it through. Page 41 then, old business E, the liquor store, hiring of a seasonal clerk. Tarek, I guess if you want to give a report, since Bill's not here to join us.
Yeah, last week we interviewed a person for seasonal work to begin immediately. Bill and I both, we interviewed him, we liked him, and we gave him the conditional offer to start working, and as far as I know, he started working, and he's working out well, so, so far so good, and I think, Bill is pretty fully staffed now for the summer period.
See the proposed wage in here, that $14.78, that is on the increased,
Yes.
or the full-time schedule.
Yep.
We'd be looking for a motion to hire Adam Jensen as a seasonal part-time liquor store clerk.
I'll make the motion to hire Adam Johnson as a seasonal part-time liquor store clerk, non-union position at grade 1, step 1, $14.78 per hour per the city's wage scale.
All right, I have a motion by Hertzberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Soini to hire Adam Jensen as a seasonal part-time liquor store clerk at grade 1, step 1. Any further discussion on that?
I'll abstain.
Okay. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None. Does carry with an abstention. Right, page 42, hiring of a full-time officer. Chief, if you could bring us up to speed.
So, as you guys know, Officer Omanek has started back in April. The last time we were at the council, we discussed kind of the plan moving forward, which was to continue with the background, psychological, physical of the next two applicants. One of those applicants that we have completed the background on and moved on to other phases was unable to satisfactorily complete those phases. So they have been removed from the process. We are currently backgrounding the Logan and completing that with him. He should be done, I believe, beginning of July with his the rest of his schooling and his skills. We reached out to the other two applicants that we had on the list. Both of those applicants, one has taken a position with Stearns County, the other one is exploring larger agencies that they're currently being recruited by and are no longer interested in the position. Therefore, we are looking at continuing with the hiring process to fill that last vacant spot.
I will just reiterate what I shared on Monday, or last night, excuse me, with the Police and Fire Committee, is that with the increased salary numbers, the budget increase for the PD, if we hire this officer, is going to be about $110,000 just for salaries next year. So I think in order to save that increase to the taxpayers, we really need to explore our options for building some sort of a contract with the township and getting some cost savings going on through that if we're going to move forward with this. I do think we need to move forward with the hiring process and see what it yields, and hopefully we can figure out that cost aspect before we make that final decision.
Can I add some more to that?
Yeah.
The 100,000 is not just for one salary, it's overall because of the union contract, which the union contract was agreed upon after the budget was passed for the year, so it doesn't reflect that. So it seems like a bigger jump than it is. So that's probably a big part of it, I think. But yeah,
The increase is still the same.
yeah,
Year-over-year spending may not be as much, but the budget increase is still the same.
yeah. And this year, because of the shortage in the police department, they will be significantly under budget.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is, because you're under budget this year, it doesn't carry over into next year. So it won't be reflected next year that he was under budget this year.
Right. So right now, we're looking for a motion to continue the hiring process for a full-time officer and accepting the tentative schedule for interviews and hopeful hiring.
I'll move to continue the hiring process for a full-time police officer with the above tentative schedule and to allow the police department and administration to continue with the process until a recommendation may be made to council.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Brick, seconded by Soini, as stated on the action sheet, to continue the hiring process for a full-time officer with the above tentative schedule and allowing the PD and administration to continue with the process until a candidate can be recommended to council. Any further discussion on that? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. That does carry. Right, then reviewing our informational, we have our garbage rates, the update on the all-city board meeting meal. Jennifer did some further investigation, got some additional quotes. The police department report, meeting schedules, investment and other financial reports. As Ron talked about earlier, the Source Water Protection Grant Award. City Hall hours are now back to normal, 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. And then if you plan on attending the All-City Board, which hopefully we plan to do, please make sure to RSVP to Jen by June 2nd if you haven't already done so. Anything else that anyone's got?
Just a question on the motor vehicle hours. At the time, we kind of shortened those was so they could get their paperwork, whatnot done, so we weren't paying so much overtime. By extending the hours till 4:30, are they gonna be here till 5, or?
We're testing it now, and when Belinda and I initially talked about it, that was one of the things that we discussed, is this going to increase the overtime? Right now, as it is, and the purpose of shortening the hours was during COVID, they're usually backed up towards the end, and they had a lot of people still waiting in line. Now, not so much, it just depends on the time of the month, where they'll get backed up. But the main reason that we decided to go back to normal hours, or the 4:30 hours, was, to offer more business to the community. Because we do notice people, wanting to come here after 4 and not be able to.
How difficult might it be for us to mix up the hours where maybe on a Tuesday or a Thursday, something like that, we're open until 6 at night instead of just 4:30?
I don't think that will be too difficult, because what we also discussed was if we are seeing, say, overtime maybe on a Friday or a Monday, what we could do is maybe have, out of the 3 people that work DMV, maybe have 2 of them come in at normal time and 1 of them come in later. That way we can kind of stagger it so the hours come out to be about the same. I think something like this, where we're open later on a particular day or time of the month, we could probably do that without any significant overtime.
Okay. All right.
John, one other thing, if I could just ask the council, I had a call today from staff. I imagine some of you are probably aware, on Saturday, the governor signed a liquor bill that changed some things, and apparently the city hall has already been getting calls from people who want to see our liquor ordinance changed, and so I started working on a draft of something like that. I hope that's okay, but that was the information I was given was that there's some pressure for the city to take a look at that as quickly as possible, and so I'm working on something. I'll get that down, and I guess Jennifer outlined for you the process and whether you feel that has to go to a committee or not. Obviously, if that's the procedure that you always follow, then that I'm not trying to short circuit that process, but it seemed like there was some pressure to do something, mostly from the baseball park, but there might be other people that are very interested too. I don't know.
You're right, it is, a lot of the pressure, my understanding is from the baseball, and part of it is because if we don't take action and pass something like this, we might put them at a disadvantage over other local ballparks. It seems to me like we're really just bringing ourselves in line with the new state statute. At least I'm anticipating that's what you're drafting, so I would say,
Yeah, that's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I assume every other city's got to go through the same process. I mean, so
I would be fine with that one just coming straight to council. Something like that probably deserves a full council discussion right away anyway, rather than just two of us.
Well, I will get it to Jennifer and Tark as soon as I can, and then they'll get it on the agenda in due course.
Tuesday before the meeting at 10:30. Thanks, Bill. All right, then we are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.